Let's call this committee of the whole meeting for February 6, 2024 to order. Madam Clerk, you please call the roll.
Alderman Yamas?
Here.
Alderwoman Garza?
Here.
Alderman Masiacos?
Present.
Alderman Donnell?
Here.
Alderman Franco?
Here.
Alderman Seville?
Here.
Alderman Tolliver? Alderwoman Smith?
Here.
Alderman Bug?
Here.
Alderwoman Bade?
Here.
Alderman Lash? Alderman Warman?
Here.
Mayor Irvin is present.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the January 16,
So
2024
moved.
meeting?
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Smith, second by Alderwoman Garza. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries by voice vote. Let's go to the mayor's report. Mr. Muhammad.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to February. February 4th on Sunday was World Cancer Day. International Day marked to raise awareness of cancer and encourages prevention, detection, and treatment. It's grown into a positive movement for everyone to unite under one voice to really focus on cancer. In honor of World Cancer Day, we celebrate tonight one of our young, courageous students and cancer patients here in Aurora, who was diagnosed 1 year ago tomorrow, February 7th, 2023. She's a sixth grader at the Fred Rogers Magnet Academy, 12 years old, diagnosed when she was 11. On February 7th, 2023, the Ayala family received the devastating news that their daughter, Abigail, was diagnosed with a desmoplastic small round cell tumor and aggressive sarcoma. She has spent the last year battling cancer with a smile, with courage, and with resilience. She's undergone major surgery, removing 95% of the tumor, and is currently completing her 18th and final round of chemotherapy before beginning radiation, which will target the other 5% of the tumor now left in her pelvis. Her mother, Sandra, calls Abigail a hero and a warrior who's learned to be strong and resilient regardless of how tough or painful things have been. Last year, tomorrow, on February 7th, Sandra said, "Our lives were turned upside down in a matter of seconds." But Abigail looked at her mother and said, "Don't cry, Mom. It's okay. I'm going to be okay. I've got this." Tonight, we honor World Cancer Day. We honor the anniversary of her diagnosis, but most importantly, we honor her courage, her strength, her smile, her positive nature. In the words of Alicia Keys, this girl is on fire. And we hope soon we can say the words of Destiny's Child. She's a survivor. Tonight, Mayor Irvin has a special presentation for young Abigail Ayala, our young hero, our young warrior. If we can please give her a round of applause, Abigail Ayala. Come on down, everyone. The family can come down with her. Mom, Dad, sisters, Grandma, Grandpa, come on down, right in the middle. You can go all the way down.
Tell you, why don't you stand on this side again? You guys just gotta stand on this side. Today is a special day because we're recognizing a very strong young lady who's fighting the good fight and making sure today I'd like to give the Mayor's Award of Valor to Abigail Ayala for your brave, courageous, and encouraging efforts in your battle with cancer. You have taken on this fight with strength and a smile, and you will absolutely win. Let's give her a round of applause. And I just want to say one more thing. Your mom is absolutely right. You are a hero and a warrior. And I just want to ask one favor from you. Can I give you a hug? Thank you, Abigail.
If her parents want to say any words, or Abigail, please feel free. Mom, Sandra. Here's her mom. Her mom's ready.
Oh, her mom?
Yes.
You know, a year ago tomorrow, we had spent a week before, a whole week at the hospital trying to figure out what was wrong, going through x-rays, ultrasounds, MRIs, EKGs. They found a blood clot in her lung as well, going along with everything. Finally, biopsy came back. Results were not what we expected. You know, hearing those words that my daughter has cancer was the worst nightmare that I never thought I would be having my child going through that process. But here she is, resilient, a year later, almost done with treatment. And we're just hoping for good news, saying that she's cancer-free. And we're very proud of her. She's pushed hard. She's been through a lot, mixed emotions everywhere, and she's done it. She's given us strength to keep moving, to keep her going, and she's got this. She'll get there. We'll get there. So, thank you.
And I just want to say to you that when you get that great news that you're cancer-free, Aurora is going to be there to celebrate with you. I look forward to that celebration, and very soon. Let's give her another round of applause.
Gonna do a group picture.
Now we'll do a quick group picture.
Aw. Beautiful picture.
One more round of applause for Ray.
One second, Abigail family. As she prepares to go through her radiation treatment, we asked her mom for some of her favorite things, some of her favorite board games. And so we have those for you. We know you like teddy bears, so we have bears and flowers for you as well. Another round of applause for Abigail.
That's cute. Oh my gosh.
When I was in the hospital, you carried that team through. Remember?
Big round of applause for Abigail. Thank you, Mayor. That concludes the report.
You know, before we go on to the rest of the agenda, I know we have a lot of little ones here in City Council with us. I will give you all, and I know most of you are probably here to see Abigail be recognized and get her presentation and her big teddy bear that she has there. So at this time, if you'd like to leave, you can feel free to stay if you'd like, but I'll give you an opportunity just to file out, just so we can start the regular part of the business. So you guys can get ready for school tomorrow, our little ones that we have in the room. You're very welcome.
All right, let's go on to the next portion of the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to offer public comment?
Yes, we do.
Will you please read the rules of public comment, please?
Pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, all persons shall be permitted an opportunity to address public officials under the rules established and recorded by the council. Under our rules, any person may address the committee of the whole for up to 3 minutes, with a maximum of 30 minutes allotted for all public comment. No person other than the timekeeper or the chair, for the purpose of maintaining order, may interrupt a person recognized for public comment during his or her comments. Members of the committee of the whole shall not engage with nor respond to a speaker during the time set aside for public comment. Staff is directed to follow up with members of the public with respect to any concerns raised during public comment within the scope of the city's authority following the adjournment of this meeting.
Madam Clerk, will you call the first speaker wishing to offer public comment?
Angelica Flores.
Ms. Flores, you have 3 minutes to speak, beginning now.
I think. Perfect. Good afternoon. We're just here from the Judah Robinson Foundation, located 223 Spring Street. We're just here to go ahead and introduce ourselves. We are providing counseling services for the homeless, case management. We have a small food pantry and clothes donations, so we just really want to get our word out there. Special thanks to Alderman Yamas, Wollerman, and Garza for letting us kind of know we're out there in the community. So if anybody knows of anybody that needs help, we are out there. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, will you call the next speaker?
Dr. Goldman.
Dr. Goldman, you have 3 minutes to speak, beginning now.
I'm not Dr. Goldman. She could not make it. I'm Judy Snyder, Board President of the Judah Robinson Foundation. What I would like to add to what Angelica has already told you is our mission is homeless mental health intervention. As many of you are probably aware, this is a very largely overlooked member of our community. You have the wrong insurance. You have no insurance. You have a chronic mental health problem. Yet you can't get one-on-one therapy. You can't get the counseling you need. You cannot get any form of direction on where to go with this problem. What the foundation seeks to do, as Angelica said, is we counsel, and we don't just do it at our foundation. We actually will go to them, be it in an institution of some sort, emergency housing, hospitals, their homes. I know that sounds a little wonky, homeless, homes, but you can be homeless and still at your mama's house on the sofa, and she's like, you know, son, you need to pay something, you need to get out of here because of their mental illness. How do you handle that? And the foundation seeks to help these people. We have as she mentioned, the food pantry, the clothing closet that we're starting. We also have the Virginia F. Dolan Lounge, which is a warming, cooling center where they can just come in, a safe environment, meet with a therapist if they're on duty, or just chill and read a book from our mini library or watch a TV DVD. I would like to thank Alderman at Large Warman, Alderman at Large Lash, I'm sorry if I really screwed up your name, and Alderman Yamas for the support they have shown us in the past. Thank you very much. You can also find us at the JudahRobinsonFoundation.org website.
Madam Clerk, will you call the next speaker?
Tim, last name starts with an N.
Newenkircher. Is there a Tim Newenkircher? All right, next speaker.
Merci Galicia and Dr. Alejandro Benavides.
Mr. Galicia, you have 3 minutes to speak beginning now.
Good evening. Thank you very much for inviting us here, and want to start out introducing myself. I'm Dr. Alejandro Benavides, president of the Illinois Tejano Organization, one of our members, Mercy Galicia. The purpose of our presentation is twofold. Number one, I want to thank the city for all their help in securing Wilder Park for our upcoming Tejano Fest on June the 29th at Wilder Park. We're very excited about it. Wilder Park overlooks the beautiful Fox River and the historic Pigeon Hill, where Romanian, Hungarian, Czech, German, and forgot another one, the working class first arrived and settled in Pigeon Hill. Also in 1918, the great-grandfather of Mr. Llamas, a gentleman by the name of Hilario Vera, settled in Pigeon Hill about 5 years before the original boxcar camp. The second part is that the Illinois Tejano Organization is a non-for-profit organization with a goal of preserving Tejano culture and providing scholarships. For those unfamiliar with the term Tejano, Tejano is a person, myself and Mercy, of Mexican origin who were born in Texas. The reason we're here is to, beside thank Aurora, we want to present a plaque. And let me read it to you. In appreciation, well, this is for Juani Garza, by the way. It is the 2024 Hispanic Community Award for Juani Garza. In appreciation and recognition for your loyalty and support of the Hispanic community in Aurora, Illinois, through the annual Hispanic Pioneer Breakfast and Empowerment through Education. The plaque has an image, if you can see. Let me read it for you. It's an image and with a quote of Marcus Moshe Gravely. In quotations, a people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. So with that, we would like to present you, Mercy, with that award. And with the powers bestowed on me as president, I am awarding Juani Garza our official Tejano button. Oops. Which then makes her an honorary Tejana. Okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate the time.
Dr. Benavides, it's very good to see you. It's been entirely too long, sir.
Muchas gracias.
Madam Clerk, will you call the next speaker?
Adam Pauly.
Mr. Paul, you have 3 minutes to speak beginning now.
Thank you. The other day, Supervisor Catching and the Township Board appointed me to the local 708 board, which is part of the larger organization Mental Health Incorporated, which administers more than $2 million levied by 7 local townships in southern Kane County for mental health and substance abuse. We've got a lot of work to do in this policy area, especially with addiction in all of its various forms. For example, it costs to go to Gateway for gambling addiction treatment for someone without insurance $6,500 up front, no payment plans. So I thank you for that. I thank the supervisor. Although you may not have been able to confirm me with your votes, I ask that you confirm me in your hearts with your prayers. I also want to thank members of staff in our community with their outpouring of support these last few weeks. With prayerful consideration, it's come to my attention that God often tests the people that he asks things of. He tests their resolve, he tests their strength, but I assure you my resolve has never been stronger. I look forward to working to identify and close the gaps in our social safety net. Thank you, and I yield the balance of my time.
Madam Clerk, do we have any additional speakers?
We do not.
Thank you very much. Let's go on to the next section of the agenda, committee reports. Chairwoman Patty Smith, can you give the Building, Zone, and Economic Development Committee report, please?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Building, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee was scheduled to meet January 24th, but it was canceled due to no items on the agenda. So that is the end of that report.
Chairman Franco, can you give the Finance Committee report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Committee met on January 25th, 2024, and reviewed the following items. 24-0046, an ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $58 million taxable general obligation bonds, Series 2024, of the City of Aurora, Kane, DuPage, Kendall, and Will County, Illinois, for the purpose of financing certain casino redevelopment costs, providing for the levy of a direct annual tax sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on said bonds, providing for the pledge of certain incremental property taxes to the payment of said principal and interest, and authorizing the proposed sale of said bonds to the purchaser thereof. And I believe Mr. Minnick will be giving us an update.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman Franco. Chris Minnick, Chief Financial Officer for the city. Enclosed in the packets tonight is the ordinance that authorizes the issuance of bonds of up to $58 million for the casino construction and relocation project. As the committee is aware, there was a redevelopment agreement that was passed in October of 2022 related to this development and this project, and the RDA governs the business terms of the redevelopment and relocation project for the Hollywood Casino. Further, that redevelopment agreement does require a city advance of $50 million against future TIF revenues, and that $50 million would be provided as part of the overall cost of $360 million for the entire project. The remainder of the project is being financed by the developer. The city has an obligation to make this advance of funding after approval of the tax increment financing district under the terms of the redevelopment agreement. That TIF district was approved by the city council January 23rd of 2024. The ordinance that's in your packet tonight allows for the issuance of bonds to finance that advance. Just as a reminder, we are borrowing the funds to pay for the $50 million advance via the bond issue. Those funds do not exist today. They're not in the city treasury or the city bank accounts today. Repayment will be made from the property tax revenue stream that's created in the increase in the valuation from the casino project itself. So in other words, without this development, those funds to repay the bonds do not exist. The ordinance is a parameters ordinance. It sets forth conditions under which the bonds may be issued, and the TIF will provide sufficient revenues to make the debt service payments. The city will not need to come out of pocket to make the payments on the bonds. The ordinance is consistent with the terms of the redevelopment agreement that was approved back in October of 2022. Staff does recommend approval. If this ordinance were to pass, the bonds could be sold as early as late next week, but more likely it would happen during the following week with an eye toward closing of the bonds at the end of February. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee may
I
have.
just want to clarify, just want to clear things up so we're all on the same page. You said that this $58 million in bonds is not coming out of the general budget of the city of Aurora.
That is correct. The bonds will be borrowed. We will finance our portion of the project. Then over the next 23 years, as the TIF revenues come into the TIF district, via the property tax stream, we will make the debt service payments on the bonds.
So the taxpayers of the city of Aurora will not be affected by this whatsoever.
They will not.
All right. And for some reason, if the projections of the casino do not cover the bond payment, then what happens?
Well, the casino has guaranteed incremental revenue or support payments up to $5,250,000. The actual ordinance contains a parameter that the debt service for any particular year cannot exceed $5,200,000. So that would not occur. We would always have enough to make the debt service payments on the bonds.
Property taxes don't meet it, the casino.
The casino
is gonna
steps in.
cover it.
Casino steps
We
in
will
and covers.
never, the city of Aurora, the taxpayers will never have to pay a dime toward this bond issuance.
Correct.
Any questions based on that? Alderman Bug?
Unfinished.
All right, unfinished?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other
Thank you.
questions? No, okay.
All right.
Next item?
Yep, next item. 24-0050, resolution authorizing execution of a memorandum of reimbursement between Cyrus One and the City of Aurora for the property located west of the Ola Interchange at 2725 Bilter Road, Aurora, Illinois, for which Cyrus One is the contract buyer. And Mr. Alexander, did you want to give a brief update on that?
Good evening, Alex Alexandru, Chief Management Officer. I actually filled in at Finance for Mr. Debo, who, it was good news, he missed. He had a brand-new grandchild, healthy and happy, and Mr. Debo is here as well. So this is a resolution to execute a memorandum of understanding between Cyrus One and the City of Aurora regarding the 30 acres that is at the western portion of the Eola Interchange off of Bilter Road. It actually has a Bilter Road address, 2725 Bilter. So we were approached by Cyrus One with a request to expand its operations from where they're at now. As you know, they've pretty much maxed out the location south of 88 where they're at currently. Their principal tenant is the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, among other tenants, but the most significant one is the CME. And so they asked us to consider changing the use of the 30 acres. As you recall, we had worked out on the 60 acres to the northeast where the edge development is. We had worked out the desire to utilize the 30 acres, working with the owner for either some type of hotel or retail use that would was always sort of the intent from when we built the interchange off of 88. But in discussing with Cyrus One and talking to our staff, this MOU gives us the opportunity and signals to both Cyrus One and CME the city's willingness to reconsider the use of the 30 acres. This is a preliminary non-binding agreement while the parties work out the details, including coming forward to City Council for the proper zoning changes and approvals. So this gives them time to continue their lease negotiations, but also significantly for the city. We all know we spent significant resources on the interchange and that entire planning area. And Alderman Bug, I think at Finance you had asked me to confirm what we had spent back then, and the number is approximately $9.3 million back in 2008. And so we continue to work through a final agreed upon amount with a formula with Cyrus One, and we will come back simultaneous to the zoning submission and the process with that basic formal recapture agreement. So we know what the city paid back in 2008, 2009 for the interchange, and so this will allow us, at the same time Cyrus One is working out its lease negotiations with CME, for us to work and finalize this recapture agreement. So this MOU just sets that process in place, but it also gives Cyrus One and CME the initial support from the city so they can continue their work. So ultimately, like I said, we will be back with basically an ultimate impact fee reimbursement to the city to go along with the land use approval process.
Questions? There be no question, I can sit on the floor with, I'm sorry? With no objection, this matter will go on consent.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, that concludes the Finance Committee report.
Thank you very much. Chairman Seville, can you give the Public Health, Safety, and Transportation Committee report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Public Health and Safety and Transportation Committee met on January 23rd, 2024. We reviewed the following two items. 24-002, a resolution approving the 2024 Quality of Life grants in the amount of $1,017,000. And the second one is 24-0003, resolution authorizing approval of the 2024 Annual Action Plan and Annual Action Plan Substantial Amendment 2023-3 funding recommendations.
Consent.
The first one is just, as it says, the Quality of Life grants. And the second one is being funded by both the home program and the CDBG. And Chris was here and gave us a very thorough presentation, answered our many questions, and he's here to present this evening to us.
Good evening, Chris Ragona, Community Development Manager, City of Aurora. So tonight we'll talk about our 2024 recommendations. We'll talk a little bit how we came up with those recommendations, the different funding sources and eligible uses for all of those, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the projects we completed in 2023. I do want to skip one slide and come back to it very quickly. Certainly there's a lot on here and it may be tough to read, but I think it's important to talk a little bit about the funding sources that comes up with our recommendations tonight. So tonight we're looking at three main sources. Two are coming from the federal government through the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and the one in the middle, our Quality of Life, is being funded through our city's gaming tax. As you can see, each of these have very unique criteria and eligible uses, and can only be used for certain populations based on income, type of service they're looking for, as well as some others. So the first one is our Community Development Block Grant. The city's been receiving this since 1974, so 50 years since the program started. This is among the most flexible federal grants that is offered. Pretty much the city decides how to best utilize these dollars, and HUD goes along with that. So different eligible uses can be housing, both for rental and home buyer, infrastructure improvements for neighborhood revitalization, such as street resurfacing, park improvements, infrastructure such as sewers, things like that. We can also use it for public service, so things like job training, homelessness prevention, senior assistance, funding for domestic violence, legal services for housing. And we can also utilize it for capital. So think of a building that's owned by a nonprofit. We can come in and assist with potentially a new roof or expansion, things like that. Community Development Block Grant is primarily income-based. So we're looking at families of four making around under $90,000, and that's a sliding scale. So as your family size goes up, the maximum dollars also goes up, and vice versa. The second funding source is going to be through our city's gaming tax, funded through the casino, and our Quality of Life program. By design, we've kept this the most broad of all of the resources that we offer into these major categories. So childcare, youth, education, job training. Some of these do overlap with the federal, but the reporting burden is much less. Additionally, museums, and then we keep it open-ended for other activities considered on a case-by-case basis, things that maybe we haven't come across before. Like I said, it's very broad. We look forward to any nonprofit coming to us with potentially unique idea, as long as they're serving primarily Aurora residents. And then this last one is our Home American Rescue Plan grant program. This was a single-time allocation given to the city through the stimulus back at the end of 2022. As you can see, there's 4 different qualifying populations, but they all look to serve those who are either homeless or on the verge of homelessness. So some of the criteria can be income-based, but we are looking to primarily serve those who are literally homeless or potentially one emergency away from becoming homeless. So different types of activities on this include emergency rental assistance, the development and preservation of rental housing. For this one, home buyer development is ineligible. And then a wide variety of supportive services for healthcare, homelessness prevention, housing search, substance abuse, domestic violence, and everything in between. So with that being said, let's go back to the quick schedule here. What we tried to do was reach out to as many partners as we could to advertise that we had multiple opportunities for them to apply for funds. So we reached out to our database of over 500 to let them know of all the opportunities that were coming up. When we received bounce backs, we attempted to try and update our contact sheet just because there is turnover throughout the years. We then held 2 online workshops that we recorded and then posted to our website, outlining the various grant requirements, funding availability, and general eligible uses. We did put an ad in the Beacon newspaper and sent out numerous emails. Once the applications were live, we met with all new applicants as a requirement to learn a little bit more about their opportunity and to make sure that at least, within the first few questions, if they were going to be potentially eligible. We did run into a few applicants just by talking with them that it maybe wasn't the right fit for them, and then the rest we advanced into the main application. We do receive a wide variety of applicants, some who have dedicated grant writers who do this on a daily basis, and then we have other grassroots where maybe it's maybe 2 or 3 folks on a board who are not getting paid, who are doing this, as part of their philanthropic efforts. So we spent more time with them, helping them with the application, helping them with the attachments, guiding them. The only thing we didn't do was review their application prior to them submitting it. So our total funding availability, let me see here. And this looks to be a different slide here, so I'll talk off my notes. The first one is going to be our Community Development Block Grant. Generally, on an annual basis, we receive $1.3 million. I know it says $200,000, but it looks like a slide got mixed up. For this year, we have about 1.9 that's available. That number has been trending down. So when there are congressional appropriations, the Community Development Block Grant Program, unfortunately, has been trending a bit down over the last decade. With the cost of doing things going up and the dollars coming to us going down, the impact of these dollars, unfortunately, is less. The next one is our Home Investment Partnerships Program. This number is correct. $2.2 million is currently available, and this is for the development and preservation of affordable housing. This one does have a little bit different of an income restriction for renters and home buyers. So for renters, that number is around $66,000 for a family of 4. For home buyers, it's similar to the CDBG program, which is around $90,000 for a family of 4. The Home Investment Partnerships Program does give us that flexibility to develop and preserve both rental and home buyer housing. And then the Home Investment Partnerships Program, American Rescue Plan, I know that's a mouthful. That was a single-time allocation, and that number actually should be $2.7 million. And then the last one, Quality of Life, $1,017,000, and we are looking to approve all 100% of those dollars. So we're going to jump into the request for Community Development Block Grant. We received 23 total applications looking for $5.2 million. We looked at a variety of things. The most important for Community Development Block Grant was if they can meet those federal requirements. Unfortunately, there is quite a bit of reporting burden, and we want to make sure that these agencies do have that sophistication to take on a federal grant. So we looked at the completeness, quality of the application, the sources and uses, prior experience, past performance, if they were going to be able to carry out their program with a reduction of funds. Unfortunately, as you can see, we had $5.2 million in ask, and we were only able to give out 1.9. We look at their performance metrics, duplication of services and collaboration, and then their ability to serve Aurorans. with all the applications that we receive, they do have a variety of service areas, but our focus is on those who are serving Aurorans. So just a couple of key highlights here. We're proposing funding for abused children, our financial empowerment center, our domestic violence shelter, job training programs, homelessness prevention, additional rehab and accessibility improvements for our single-family homes, street resurfacing, additional funds for our small down payment assistance program, as well as assistance to our seniors. In looking at these applications, we also wanted to make sure that they were in good standing. So we looked at good standing checks with the city, state, the federal debarred list. We also took a look at their audit, conducted interviews, and then also conducted site visits when feasible. The next grant is our quality of life, and we received 48 total applications, which is in line with the last couple of years or so. Once again, we received $1.7 million in ask, and we're only able to give out around $1 million. We did look at a lot of the same things minus the federal requirements. So we looked at completeness and quality of the application, their sources and uses, experience, past performance, ability to carry on with a reduction in funds, performance metrics, and that ability to serve Aurorans. So we looked at their total ask versus their percentage of Aurorans being served and made sure that we weren't over-subsidizing by providing more Aurora dollars based on the number of Aurorans they were looking to serve. We also did look at city, state, federal, good standing checks, had a look at our audit reviews, looked at their boards as well just to make sure they were functioning, and then conducted interviews for all new applicants and conducted site visits as well. The last one is our home ARP. We had 14 total applications requesting $5.3 million, and we're looking to recommend $1.5 million today. Key highlights in this one: legal services for housing exclusively, healthcare, housing assistance, substance abuse, domestic violence, emergency rent, homelessness prevention, and fair housing training, both to our landlords and our tenants. And the key focus on this one is you need to be literally homeless or those on the verge of homelessness. So a very key criteria for home ARP. You'll see the 2 stars there for housing development and supportive services. While we're not funding any housing with home ARP, we did recommend a small amount of funding for a set-aside with a different source of funding, and that would be for preservation of rental housing. So it's housing that already exists and making improvements to it. And then for supportive services, we recommended 1 application over to our quality of life program. So looking at all of the applications and recommendations, we got 85, which is the most that the city has ever gotten, at least from the records that we looked at. And we're looking at funding 59 total applications for a total of $4.4 million spread across a very broad spectrum of different programs. But that's not all. We still have more funding in the hopper to get out. We do always hold a small contingency for our community development block grant program. Right now we're estimating around $200,000. We wouldn't have access to this money until the end of the summer anyways, so we can hold this in our back pocket should there be a large change order or a program that might need additional funding or maybe a new activity that comes up over the next several months. We also are still carrying $2.2 million for our Home Investment Partnerships program, and this could be for either small-scale or large-scale development of affordable housing. For some of these larger-scale developments, that process can take several years when you're stacking all the different layers of state and federal resources, so we do have a couple years' worth of dollars to invest at a later date. And then for our home ARP dollars, we have $1.1 million. The expiration on these dollars is not till September 30th, 2030, so we do have quite a bit of time. We wanted to get out at least the first half for our 7 recommended projects, and we're going to see how those do over the next several months. Some of them might be major successes where we can then add money pending city council approval, and then some of those might take a little bit of time to get off the ground. So we do have money in our back pocket. Plus, those dollars could go towards the development of affordable housing if there's the right development. And then for quality of life, we are recommending 100% of the dollars that are available to us for 2024. So just a couple of highlights and success stories and programs that we have available. Our Safety First program has been around for many years with $835,000 invested since 2020. One of the key improvements or key changes to this program is we increased the max award per household. It used to be $10,000, with that being broken up into a 3-year forgivable loan, and then the second half being a deferred loan. So when they were to sell the home, that money would come back to the city. As we were finding with bids, $10,000 unfortunately doesn't go that far anymore. So a lot of the improvements we were looking to fund were simply too expensive. So we increased the max award up to $15,000 and split that forgivable loan and deferred loan in half to $7,500 each. Rebuilding Together Aurora, again, this program has been around for several years with $250,000 invested since 2020. This one is a straight $5,000 grant for accessibility improvements. It may not seem like much of an improvement, but taking a shower and making it accessible is a very big improvement for someone that needs services such as that. We will be looking at that max grant award in 2024. So far, we haven't had to increase it because oftentimes these projects are a little bit cheaper, but if needed, we do have the ability to increase that award if needed. Our down payment assistance program, we're recommending some additional funds with this. You can get up to $5,000 towards your closing costs, and we do conduct some underwriting to make sure that the home buyer is getting into a situation where the housing is considered affordable. We are seeing that the prices of homes are going up. Interest rates are going up, insurance costs are going up, and we're getting less clients applying, and we're actually having to deny more clients because of the ratios. The portion that they're paying towards their housing is going too high for us to consider it affordable. So that is also something we'll be monitoring in 2024 to see if adjustments need to be made to this program. Just a couple of project profiles. DuPage Senior Citizens Council, prior quality of life recipient. They're also receiving $25,000 in 2024. Do a variety of things for our senior citizens. In this one, they're providing home delivered meals, community dining, drive-through food events, and well-being checks. In this one, we're going to be recommending $25,000 again in 2024. World Relief. They received a smaller amount in 2023, but we are recommending a boost up to $15,500 in 2024. And they also do a lot for our refugees that we know are in the community. Fox Valley Special Recreation Foundation, small grant of $5,000, but I think it's important to make sure that we're being inclusive at all of our community events. So they set up this tent, and it's for sensory processing disorder and for those folks with autism. Again, recommending $5,000 in 2024. And just a brief update on our Lincoln and Todd development. They are approaching completion here. We're looking for lease up, I think, in the next 30 to 45 days, pending certificate of occupancy. This one, as you can see, we're looking at income ranges of $16,000 to $65,000, and that is based on your household size, with rents from as little as $400 up to $1,300, depending on the bedroom size. Todd is similar, a little bit smaller of a development with just 11 units to be redeveloped, but it does include a public health facility, which will be housed through VNA. Exclusively for students and families at District 129. And they're going to be performing a variety of healthcare, lots of vaccinations, school, physicals, food and security, to really be a one-stop shop for those in need in District 129. A couple of projects on the horizon, project profile for Mutual Ground. We are funding them with 2 separate grants, the first for $200,000. And this is a big one. We conducted listening sessions last year with many of our subject matter experts. And over we heard that we have folks with the means to pay for housing, but they can't get into housing because of the lack of availability and the competition. Oftentimes, if you have a lower or poor credit score or a past criminal record or maybe multiple jobs, things like that, you don't score as high as maybe some of those top-tier candidates, and they find themselves with the means to be self-sufficient, but they're unable to get those units. For the CDBG project, this is something that we funded in the past. It's case management to provide a variety of services in the amount of $40,000. And we've given Mutual Ground almost $700,000 since 2020. Hesed House is another project profile. Again, we heard the same thing. We have clients at Hesed House who have the means to be self-sufficient, who are at the shelter working full-time. But because of the nature of where they are, when on the application they list Hesed House as their address, they're not as competitive, even though they have those means. So $440,000 is going to go, or a portion of that, to really get those clients the resources to work with landlords and try and find them the right housing. And then an additional $40,000 is going to go to case management. Again, this will provide a variety of services to mitigate and prevent homelessness. And since 2020, Hesed House has received over $1 million from the Community Development Division. And that includes public service for salaries as well as capital improvements. So next steps, we're almost at the tail end here. We'll be seeking City Council approval next Tuesday. And then we'll be executing what will be, I think, over 50 agreements in the next 30 to 60 days, finalizing our policies and procedures for all of our new funding. And then when the spring comes, we want to get out and conduct some spot monitoring, making sure that what the folks are listing on their applications is true. And then offer just additional support for maybe those who are receiving quality of life funds to take that next step and maybe seek those federal dollars. So it acts as a monitoring as well as technical assistance. And then hopefully by the summer, everything will be executed and we'll be starting our next 5-year plan all the way up to 2029. With that, I thank you and we'll be happy to answer any additional questions.
Questions from the Alderman? There being no questions, thank you very much. Mr. Regona?
Consent on both?
Thank you.
All right, consent on both.
Okay.
So I think it needs to stay unfinished.
Unfinished on both?
Unfinished on both.
Okay. And that's the report from PHS&T. Mayor?
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Let's go to Chairwoman Wani Garza. Can you give the Infrastructure and Technology Committee report, please?
Yes, we met on January 22nd. So the first item is 23-0962, a resolution authorizing the Director of Purchasing to purchase a fire station alerting system with 8 years of support services from Purvis System Incorporated for $1,94,136.18 plus 3% contingency.
No objections, item to go on consent.
24-0022, a resolution to append R20-311, date December 22nd, 2020, from the Data Defenders LLC, 111 Jackson Boulevard, Suite 1700, Chicago, Illinois 60604. Total amount is 0.
No objections, item to go on consent.
24-0024, a resolution authorizing the Director of Purchasing to increase the purchase order from R.C. Wagman Construction Company, 750 Morton Avenue, Aurora, Illinois 60506, by the amount of $3,617,578 for 7 individually bid construction trade packages, as well as 7 allowance and part of public work combined maintenance facility project.
No.
Can we get
Alderman Bug.
Yeah, can we get a presentation on this?
Is there someone here from staff speak on this?
Ken Schroth, Public Works. I'm sorry, what was the question?
Just talk a little bit about what exactly this item is and what we're doing with it.
Oh, so this is the third major and last major bid package by R.C. Wegman for the project. You can see the dates of the previous bid packages. I mean, this thing dates back to December of 22 with the first major bid package. And now this includes the remainder of the trades to actually get the physical building built out. And then you'll see us come before you again with a couple more bids and awards, one for the fuel station, one for site package 2, which is the paving of the east half and the surface course on the west half. And then also one for furniture, fixtures, and equipment. and then one for cameras and door lock sets. So there's a couple more things that we're going to do. All of those that I just mentioned are outside of what RC Wegman's been hired to handle. And so we're happy to report out that what they've put together so far is below our current budget estimates. So if we stay on the same course, hopefully in total we'll come in lower than what we have budgeted this year. But we still have those other packages to bid out. And our game plan, our hope is to have the building turned over to us sometime in December, January, and then begin the migration of moving all the operations over there, which will take several months.
Question? There being none, no objections, item go on consent.
Thank you.
Next item is 24-0034, a resolution authorizing the Director of Purchasing to purchase a one-year renewal of the DocuSign contract life cycle management subscription from Karak Soft Technology Corporation of Reston, Virginia, for an amount not to exceed $119,999.74.
No objections, item go on consent.
The next item is 24-0035, a resolution to award a contract with RJN Group, Inc. in the amount of $288,500 for the 24 and 25 overlay manhole inspections locating through the city of Aurora.
No objections, item go on consent.
And we conclude the meeting, Mayor.
Thank you much. Chairman Ron Warman, can you give the Rules Administration and Procedure Committee report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rules Administration and Procedures Committee met on January 16th, 2024, and reviewed the following items. 23-0721, an ordinance amending Chapter 41.5 of the Code of Ordinances pertaining to special events.
No objections, item go on consent.
Next item on the agenda, 24-0014, an ordinance amending Chapter 2. Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances pertaining to the city's officers and departments.
No objections, item go on consent.
The next item, 24-0020, a resolution approving the appointments of Patricia DeVore and Richard Lawrence to the Veterans Advisory Board. Scott Maxon is listed on here, but since RAP Committee, he has decided that he did not want to be reappointed, so it's just the two I read, Patricia DeVore and Richard Lawrence.
With no objections, item go on consent.
Next item, 24-0021, a resolution approving the reappointments of Sandra Harrison, Dr. Todd Leedon, Dr. Jennifer Norrell, and Alderman Edward Bugg to the Aurora Education Commission.
Consent.
I'm sorry, Alderman Bugg, what did you say?
Unfinished.
Unfinished.
Next item, 24-0025, a resolution approving the reappointments of Sandra Harrison to the City's Advisory Commission for Disabilities.
No objections, item go on consent.
Next item on the agenda, 24-0027, a resolution authorizing the reappointments of Seth Hoffman, Amber Foster, and Simon Munoz to the Aurora Preservation Commission.
No objections, item go on consent.
Next item is the discussion purposes only, 24-0029, a discussion regarding the process for the Award 9 Scholarship Program. Next item on the agenda.
Hold on a second. So is this, no, do you have questions on this? Anybody have questions? No objections, item go on consent. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Next item, 24-0030, a resolution approving the reappointments of William Small Jr., Robert Lundquist, and Annette McMahon to the Human Relations Commission.
Consent.
No objections, item go on consent.
Mr. Mayor, that concludes the report.
Thank you very much. That concludes committee reports. Let's go on to staff report. We've got Julie Franchino, who's going to give a report on our grants that we've received over last year here in the city of Aurora.
Good evening. My name is Julie Franchino, and I'm the city's grants writer. I've been with the city since August of 2022, and I'd like to give you a brief overview of grants in general and the city's recent grant activity. And bear with me because I have not clicked with this before, so hopefully it will work. Because there are many misconceptions about grants, I wanted to start with a brief explanation of what grants are and why they exist. So generally speaking, grant applications are project plans that are written to meet the needs of the city and the specific parameters of the funding entity. So it's a matter of bringing those two things together. Grant awards are contracts between the city and the funder that spell out the parameters for completing the work of the funded project. And grants exist because funders, such as the federal government, which is the source of a lot of the grant funds that flow through to the city, they want to accomplish things that they can't do on their own. Grants are typically inspirational in nature, and they help create positive change for the organizations that win awards. So let's talk about recent grant activity in the city. And it worked. In 2023, we assessed over 250 grant opportunities, reviewing notices of funding opportunity, or NOFOs as they're called, to determine if the grant parameters would be a good fit for the city, for the city's needs and capabilities. From the NOFOs assessed, we submitted 44 distinct applications requesting a total of over $22 million. And in the same year, we received 25 grants worth over $7.1 million. And this, by the way, does not include the CDBG funds that Chris was just speaking about, even though those are a grant. Those are excluded from here. So far in 2024, we've assessed over 130 grants. 15 applications worth $10.4 million have been submitted, and we have received one grant award so far in '24 for $600,000. Of the grants submitted since '23, the top 3 submitting departments by dollar amount requested were Public Works, IT, and the Aurora Police Department. The top departments to receive grants have been the Police Department, Public Facilities, and Development Services. I'd like to highlight a few of the larger and more interesting projects that have been funded over the last year. To begin, we received a grant for $42,000 from the Institute for Museum and Library Services. Their program is called Inspire, Grants for Small Museums. And this grant will help us improve storage conditions for the artifacts at the GAR that are not stored in the most ideal conditions. We also received $25,000 from the Chicago Region Trees Initiative. This program was called the Urban and Community Forestry Support Grant, and this will improve the downtown landscape work, and this one has already begun. The picture here is a stretch of the trail on the east side of the river, just south of River Edge Park. Those are some invasive species that are going to be cleared and replanted with approved species from our arborists' approved list. And we're going to also add some trees in other places along the riverbank downtown, and prune trees in Rotary Plaza and Millennium Park. A couple other ones. We got $487,000 from the Illinois Housing Development Authority through their Strong Communities program. You might be familiar with this. It used to be called Blight Reduction or the Abandoned Properties Program. I don't know why they keep changing the name, but it's the same concept. So this shows an abandoned property that we were able to demolish with these funds, and there were a couple other properties we also were able to demolish. They can also use these funds to do things like clean up junk, which is a problem at some of these abandoned properties, or cut the grass and weeds, any sort of maintenance sort of things. Another interesting grant was $895,890 from the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board, and that the name of the grant was the Law Enforcement Camera Grant. This specifically went towards officer-worn body cameras and dashboard cameras. And two of my personal favorites, we were awarded $1 million from the USDA in the Inflation Reduction Act Urban and Community Forestry Grant. This is a 5-year project that will improve the health of Aurora's urban forest, focusing on federally defined disadvantaged areas. And last but not least, this was our most recent grant award. We received $600,000 from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, their Open Space Land Acquisition and Development Program, and this will be for the renovation of Garfield Park. Oh, well, and I had a thank you slide, but I don't know why it didn't show. So thank you for your time. I look forward to a productive 2024 and continuing to bring exciting grant projects to the city. Any questions?
Any questions from Ms. Franchino about all the grant money that she's helping bring to the city?
Just a quick question.
Alderman Smith.
So in the CBG, you said that was not included in there. Are there
In the
any other
totals.
grants that come into the city that are excluded from what
From
you-
those
what you
totals?
just showed us?
I believe I've captured all the totals. When I started here, we did not have any system for tracking all of that
But none that
information
you're
in the
aware
city,
of.
so that's part of what I've built is I basically have a spreadsheet that I track all of it in. So because different departments handle things differently, I can't swear that I haven't missed something else, but I deliberately didn't count CDBG because it's such its own entity and that's completely managed through, Chris's team.
Thank you.
And I believe it has already come through, and we voted on it here, that there's going to be a new grant management software that you're going to be able to use to even follow the grants even more.
Yeah,
Track
that
it.
will help us a lot, I think.
So you have brought us to the future here just in the last few years that you
I
have to
hope
track
so.
all the grants and see what we're actually receiving from the federal government and other entities to help the city go, which most of this money, grant money, goes into, does it go into our general budget? Or is it specific to particular projects or departments?
So because grants are project plans, the funds typically must be spent on allowable costs within those plans. Some grants allow for indirect costs, which the city has not, typically we choose not to charge indirect costs. That's a finance office decision and we've implemented that. They prefer for the funding to go towards the projects that we need.
Gotcha. All right. And of course, there are also, just for the council to know, many grants that you've reviewed, and although they're available, you've determined is not necessarily a good fit for the city. Can you explain a little bit of that?
Sure. So all grants have different eligibility requirements. So not every grant that's out there, even if we think the work would be a good fit for what we want to do, we may not qualify because city governments must be an eligible entity for us to apply. That is, required for the project because they do have periods of performance. So if it's a 3-year grant, you've got to spend that money in that 3 years. We have to consider, is this scope of work that is likely to get us funded something we can do in 3 years? So there's just a lot to consider in what we actually apply for.
So simply because there might be a grant out there doesn't necessarily mean that the city of Aurora is qualifies for this grant, or even if
Correct.
it is out there, there's a formula that we have to determine whether or not it's acceptable for us to receive this grant.
Correct.
Any other questions? Acceptable for us to receive this grant.
Correct.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Julie. Really appreciate your hard work
Thank you.
and what you brought to the city. All right, that concludes staff reports. We are in need of a closed session under Section 2C5 of the Open Meetings Act to discuss the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body.
So moved.
Do I have a motion to enter into this closed session, thereafter adjourn the committee of the whole meeting with no further action on public business to take place? Motion made by Alderman Franco, second by Alderman Smith. All in favor? I'm sorry, there's a roll call on that one. Roll call on that one. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Alderman Yamas?
Yes.
Alderwoman Garza?
Yes.
Alderman Masiacos?
Yes.
Alderman Donnell?
Yes.
Alderman Franco?
Yes.
Alderman Seville?
Yes.
Alderman Tolliver?
Yes.
Alderwoman Smith?
Yes.
Alderman Bug?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bade?
Yes.
Alderman Warman?
Yes.
11 yes, 0 no.
Motion carries, so we'll go into closed concession, and then we will be adjourned immediately after.